and welcome to KnightHunter Books. Time for something a little different. We read quite a few short stories in 2016 and we thought we'd do a few recommendations.
So, in no particular order, these are some that have really stood out to us this year. So the first that we're going to talk about is this short story collection that we still haven't finished, but we have both been absolutely blown away by this. All of the stories that we've read are so good, they just stand up by themselves. A lot of them are award nominees, so it's not surprising, I suppose, but so many different ideas, so many...
It's a literary best of album from somebody who's had quite a long career.
I've got quite a few favourites, even from the few I've read so far, but Paper Menagerie, if you want to kind of just try one on the internet to see if you like his stuff, then I'd say that's probably a good one to start with. We'll put the link down below on where to find that.
Audible.com released a novella by John Scalzi called The Dispatcher, read by Zachary Quinto. And, well, if Zachary Quinto reading a good story to you for 2 hours sounds like a good time, you'd be right.
Brilliantly acted. It's set in a world where suddenly people came back to life if they were murdered. Not if they die of natural causes, just if they're murdered. And this leads to a job, which the main character has, a dispatcher.
So he is called out by the agency where people are at risk of death. So if somebody's on a surgical table, they're having a really high risk procedure done, you have a dispatcher stood by so that if something goes wrong, the patient doesn't die of natural causes, they're murdered. They'll reappear at home, happy and healthy, or at least as happy as they started. This leads to some really, really screwed up social consequences, and how you get led through this seamy underworld of a murder-free world is when one of the protagonist's colleagues, another dispatcher, has disappeared, and he gets drawn into the police investigation.
The next one I'm going to talk about is two short stories by the same author that we read this year, Naomi Kritzer. First we read Cat Pictures Please, which I
was nominated for an award, I think?
Yes. Which I thought was absolutely incredible. It follows a search engine or an AI who tries to make people's lives better and also really loves cat pictures, so very endearing as stories go. But then I read or listened to a separate one of hers, which is even better. So these ones are really up there this year for me. And the other one is called So Much Cooking, and it is told in the style of a food blog, but as she's writing over kind of many months, a pandemic happens and you get to see through the eye of this blog everything that's happening to the world. So you get food shortages and she has to start mixing up recipes to use weird ingredients that she can't actually get hold of.
And her sister-in-law is a nurse.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a really, such a brilliant way to get an insight into the story, kind of the wider world. And the other thing I really liked about it is the main character is just like lovely, like a just selfless person that makes me kind of sort of hopeful for humanity, which was quite nice. And is the sort of person I wish, or I hope I'm like, if that ever happens. Which we hope it won't.
And I should here, I think, put in a plug for Clark's World. They make a lot of stories available free as an audiobook, and the narrator has a wonderful voice and manner, and they make a lot of long car journeys shorter. The next one we'd like to talk about is Mrs. Griffin Prepares to Commit Suicide Tonight by Ke. This is what feels like actually a run of stories about AI assistance for elderly people. We seem to have read a couple this year at least. This story revolves around Mrs. Griffin. And it's a series of short stories. She's persuaded to tell you more about her life and what led her to where she is now. And it's quite dark in places, but it ends on a really lovely note.
Mm. We were both crying in the car.
Yes, not always helpful while you're driving.
And that's translated from the Chinese as well. And the last one we're going to talk about is another which we listened to last month, translated from the Chinese, which is Summer at Grandma's House by Hao Junfan. Now this one just really felt like a breath of fresh air. It follows a kind of teenage or a college kid as he's flunking out, not sure what to do with his life.
He's or she's?
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure it's ever specified.
No, okay. College student of indeterminate gender who's flunking out, struggling at school, and for summer just goes to his grandma's house to just try and sort themselves out. And their grandma is an amazing character. She's this inventor, scientist, kind of like mad scientist character, but also really relatable and good at the social stuff. It really drew me in, and I found it incredibly easy to listen to, or it had my attention constantly, and it had kind of little bits of humour, and it was quite light. It didn't make me cry, that's probably why I liked it.
Yes, a lot of sad short stories.
Yeah. It's got a bit of a moral in there, but it doesn't feel too heavy-handed. It's come at in quite an interesting way.
Yeah. I also read quite a few short stories that are even shorter. So going down, I subscribe to a site called 365 Tomorrows, who produce a short story of, I think, 200 to 400 words every day. Some of the best ones are really very good. And even shorter than that, I'm sure there are many out there, but one I've found is Micro SFF, a Twitter feed devoted to producing tweet-length short stories. A few of which I've seen go sort of properly viral, but they're consistently producing sort of intriguing short stories a couple of times a day, which I think is quite impressive at 140 characters.
Yeah. Yeah, let us know what short stories you've been reading this year. If you've got any recommendations, that would be great, because we read some, but I think I find we tend to read the same authors that we have read novels by, so it'd be good to try some new authors that are just really good at this form. So thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon.